It was a cloudy day, and our friend Anton suggested to show us more of his area. The music was blasting to ear-piercing decibels, and the deep bass rumbled my insides. First stop was at one of his relatives' house in the neighboring town of Charbon for refreshments. Local grog, of course, then mixed with fermented sugarcane juice. This is not fine champagne and not to everyone's taste, but me, I like it. And when in Cabo Verde, do as Cabo Verdeanos do.
Nós temperata, bem temperata. Alex gosta de temperata.
Vai experimentar. Assim é doce.
É não doce, Alex. Peraí, ela não pode.
Não tem, tá bom, tá bom.
The music was back on, and added to that, the rumble of the pickup on rough cobblestones. It did not slow Anton until we met up with a curious crowd. A few miles down the coast from Tarrafal are more friends of Anton. He uses his pickup as a collective taxi, so he's often in these parts. Folks here are digging the musical break. Through this grove of coconut and mango trees, they are taking us to a beach called Praia Brata. Our French friend Sarah is also with us. She took a break from working at her guest house on this gray Sunday afternoon. It's another stunning beach, and almost deserted except for the few locals who play, fish, and gather coconuts. We were warmly welcome at this beach bar. Few are the tourists who come here, and for those of us who do, we're sweetly rewarded. We want to set off today, and Galopin needs to be freshened up. The bruma seca, or dry haze, is covering up everything with dust from the Sahara. It accumulates quickly and gets onto everything, makes the line stiff as rebar, and since it's past the rainy season, buckets of salt water are the only option. And since there was this continuous motion of the ocean, keeping on one's feet on a sloppy deck was like walking on a tightrope. And then there's this, that can only get worse. Being at sea, there are things that grow more rapidly than it seems. Fingernails and toenails, as well as facial growth. And that goes for Galopin as well. Poor guy needed a shave worse than I.
Bad luck, bad day, what should I do? Bad luck, bad day, what should I do?
Here were these mollusks that turned the hull into an urban sprawl of life. As well, the bow was getting pretty hairy. There's more to do deeper under, but wind and current are making it difficult. And it's kind of chilly. I'll get to that later. Near mid-afternoon, we were ready to go, but not Galopin. He wouldn't start. After I purged the injectors, I realized it was the starter solenoid, and I got Simone started. But then...
Engine problems.
I can hear the solenoid clicking, but nothing.
The engine won't stop.
As well, our handy outdoor shower nozzle snapped in half. That's minor. Getting the engine to stop is major. I tried to manually push in the solenoid, which normally cuts the fuel, but it wouldn't work. I pulled on the fuel cutoff valve, and nothing.
I have to find the air intake. Block the air intake and it'll stop it. But I don't know where the air intake is.
I went online and threw the Perkins repair manual. I found the air intake and took a wooden cutting board and a rag to stifle the air intake. It was not as easy as I thought, but finally, Simone went to sleep.
I did it. Turn off the engine.
Que faisais, Agora?
I took the breath out of it. I put this on top of the air intake. And you have to be careful not to put your hand because it can suck your hand. Put this and just so it stopped breathing. Now my tailor's breathing.
Non stress. Aujourd'hui, qu'avec stress.
While I was there, I noticed a black spray on the engine head. It seems to come from here, just below injector 1. There is a crack. I looked it up in the parts manual. It's called a flange. That will have to be addressed soon.
Voilà. Les Français, encore une fois, ils font manifestation. Galopin nous fait la tête. Ce que c'est vrai, ça fait un bon moment, on l'a un peu abandonné. Surtout moi. Je le sais. Mais je te garantis. Je suis française, alors je sais qu'est-ce qu'il veut. Les hommes français, ils sont capricieux.
So our departure today was foiled.
Natage à caviar, il n'y aura pas de douche. Là, c'est vraiment la vie sauvage qui commence.
And as I've said many times before, the sailor's plans are written in sand. The shower head is not such a big deal, but when you wash in salt water, rinsing off with fresh water makes life aboard livable. And it's one of those fully integrated plastic pieces, no way to take it apart to repair. I tried some epoxy, but as I expected, it did not hold. I'll have to jerry-rig something until I can replace it. You can never fully guarantee any departure or arrival when being a sailor. One can only hope for the best and expect the worst. Since we were held up an extra day, it gave our friend Lola an extra day to come up from Praia, so she could join us for the day's sail south to our next destination. Lola loves sailing and has quite a few miles under her belt as a boat hitchhiker. She was anxious to take the helm and get hold of Galopin. It was a usual Cape Verde sailing day, 20 plus knots wind on the beam and later in our backs, just as predicted. I hoisted the main with 2 reefs and opened up the Genoa fully. Galopin was flying, 7.5 knots, even up to 8 and more. Like a good French, Lola tucked it up with Nat while helming. I'd remarked that she'd lose course and would correct. But it was not all her fault. The Genoa was pulling too much on the bow. Galopin was heavy to handle. Later, the wind came directly on the stern, so I furled up to Genoa, which was not doing anything leeward. And with just the mainsail with 2 reefs, we were cruising at 6 knots. It was glorious sailing, and for once, it was too short a sail. The anchorage was just 8 miles down the coast. The captain and his family, as well as his fleet, moved from Tarrafal a few months ago and had been urging us to come here. And there they were, tucked away in the stunning protected bay. If it weren't for the captain's recommendation, we may not have stopped here. As soon as we arrived, we were greeted by local fishermen.
We're about to set anchor. Gonna meet the captain's family, the pirates here that have been here for a while. It's really calm and chill compared to Tarrafal. But there's nothing here. What are we gonna do?
Cruisers are few who come here, so you're greeted like a rock star. A few beers is a certain icebreaker and recommended. Yes, when arriving at a new spot in Cape Verde, make friends. As you can see, it's very easy.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you keep robbers off your boat. You invite people over, and they protect you. They like you. You can't be afraid, man.
The girl here is Nephili, the captain's daughter. She lives on one of the 2 boats anchored here. She's a real pirate sailor girl and quite knowledgeable around these parts, as well as fluent in Creole, English, and German. We were then taken hostage quite quickly after a few drinks by the fishermen. And as with the wind, we happily went along.
Sorry.